All right. So this is basically going to be the draft logic breakdown here. I'm going to kind of give you all a high level walkthrough as to how it works, and then we will go from there. But basically, the way that this process works is that Darren gives me the draft classes. He also gives me the career stats out of SNCFL. And what we do is I import these into SQL, which you can see here. This is the draft class in its raw form. Excuse me. And this is the career stats in its raw form. And what I do is I combine all that information together. Now, what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to show you the code, only because I don't want to give anything away. I don't want anybody to have an advantage as far as how we calculate this stuff, because it is complex, and even if you do calculate it right, there's still a pretty large I guess area for mistakes. I don't want to give anybody an unfair advantage, so I'm just going to kind of talk about how it works and give a few examples as to what you saw this year as far as what happened. So the first part of this is that we import the data, obviously, and then we have some code written that basically assigns a point value to every single stat that's relative to a player. So, for example, quarterbacks, passing touchdowns, linebackers, tackles, cornerbacks, free safeties, interceptions, etc. They all have multiple stats assigned to them that get multiple point values. So for quarterbacks, let's say a pass touchdown is, let's just say it's a point. So if a quarterback threw 20 TDs, he got 20 points. And that gets factored into, another calculation that occurs further down the road, called the production rating, where it adds everything up and then it divides it by kind of like a modifier. And what we do is we use that production rating to then calculate we'll call it the average rating, because that's what I have it called here. But we use the production rating with a few of the skills. So for quarterbacks, and this is going to be the point of reference for this video, but we look at arm, intelligence, and accuracy. So along with the position rating, which is, QB here, and then all of these stats here get compiled into what we call the average rating. So the average rating, not the average rating, it gets compiled into the production rating. And then we take that production rating and we base it up against the peers at the in the position group, and kind of figure out where these guys stack up in the grand scheme of things. So they all get compared more or less to an overall rating that's kind of based on the top 5 at the position as they come in. And this is a good example. So we're looking at quarterbacks, and this is actually this year's draft class that we just had. So in this year's draft class, what we did was, and this is the actual class here, this is the raw class with some added stuff that I threw in. But in this scenario, you have here your top 3 guys. You have, that's not what I wanted. You have Ronald McCulloch, Fred Burns, and Ricky Mullis. These 3 were your highest scoring quarterbacks as far as average rating is concerned. And again, that takes into account their actual ratings out of SNCFL, plus it also takes into account their production. So Ronald McCulloch scored the highest at 92.8, 91.6 for Fred Burns, and 90.1 for Ricky Mullis. Now, what happens here is that these 3 guys have their base ratings, and that 90, what that indicates is that lets us know what bucket or what tier they're going to be dropped into when we're determining the potential min-max hit. Okay, so the min-max hit could be anywhere. For this conversation, we'll just say it's plus 10 minus 10. Or actually, we'll say plus 10 minus 20, just for the sake of this conversation. It's not like that for everything, but again, we'll just say that for this. So when these guys run through the system, or when they run through the normalizer, as we call it, which is the logic, you have Ronald McCulloch, who again, to start out with, was 84, 95, 94. Now, what happened here with Mr. McCulloch, if I can find him, there he is. He ended up with a 78, 83, 76. So he got nerfed a little bit, which was, again, by design. This is the way we kind of want things to work because of the overabundance of talent in the WWPF at quarterback. So that's one example, right? Another example is you have Fred Burns out of South Carolina, who actually ended up maintaining his ratings for the most part, but he actually had a 93, 87, 76 for the major ratings. And then for the actual draft class, he got nerfed a little bit. He went -3 on arm, so he's down to a 90, +1 on or +2 on intelligence, so he's 89, and then -8 on accuracy, so 68. So now again, he maintained. He wasn't hit terribly, but that's a first-round quarterback. That's a guy you can draft and develop. And I don't know how old he was. He's 22. So there you go. Now this is probably my favorite example of it, but Ricky Mullis got absolutely murdered in the ratings. And again, this is done by design. These hits are random. It's not anything that's, kind of done intentionally. Like this guy had just as much opportunity as the other two guys to get pluses and minuses. His pluses and minuses just happened to be a little bit more severe. So he started out 88, 90, 92. He finished -10 on arm, -1 on intelligence, and -20 on accuracy. So he got bombed. Now, again, the point of this is if anybody's looking at this guy's ratings, or not ratings, but combine, and they're looking at his production, the production says, hey, man, maybe this guy is a first, second round talent. Now, he might not be showing that in the combine. He might not be showing that someplace else, but the production says otherwise, right? Now, I don't know where Ricky Mullis ended up getting drafted. I don't know if he got drafted at all. I didn't even bother to look. But the point is, with production like this, somebody's bound to take a shot on him. And that's kind of the goal and the purpose of this, right? We want the draft to be organic, right? You want to have booms and busts and, all kinds of just immersive things happen in the draft. So that's why we kind of have this slated the way that we do. So that's essentially how this works. Now, these three guys, they went through the normalizer. They got their hits. This is the actual class. This was the final class here down here that we're looking at. And those were the ratings as far as where they got. Now, I'm going to show you all why we don't import the ratings for what they are. And it's mainly because any of these guys coming out with their current ratings could start for any team in the WWPF. I mean, this is, 84, 95, 94, 93, 87, 76, 88, 90, 92, 82, 94, 86, 91, 91, 95. These guys all come out jacked. Yeah, they don't come out 90, 90, 90, all the way through and through. And the guy from Texas, Bradford Castellano, let's see what he ended up as. He's right here. He got, where's arm? 77, 71, 89. So again, he got hit hard, and that's kind of the way it goes. So, again, we're not out to really kill the quarterback, so to speak. I mean, we give them opportunities to get bumped up and, jump up in ratings, but it is a grind. It is something that is not, it's not like hey, you're going to get +5, +5, +5 on one dice roll. It's all three dice rolls have to be +5 in order to get it. So each rating gets its own dice roll, and the dice rolls vary depending on what the average of the SNCFL classes for, say for accuracy or arm. Say arm comes back and say arm is, relatively low. Like say it's an 82 average. Well, then we might be inclined to say, hey, we'll up it to plus 12, minus 10. And that's the variant that goes into play, and you can get any number between, negative 10 and 12. And that'll either increase or decrease it. The other thing I wanted to make mention of is we did put a few new little things in here, and they're not on the current class that we just did, but they will be for next year. So this guy who has a arm of 58, that will actually no longer be a thing going forward. We're actually going to make it so that there's floors for certain ratings for certain position groups. So arm is actually the weakest arm is going to be 60 going forward. I don't know how much that helps you guys or hurts you guys, but that's more or less what it's going to be for arm. And you'll see floors for, other ratings and whatnot for other positions too. And trying to think here. We added a couple of new features. One is, I guess we'll call them features. I don't know what they really are, but we added one called generational talent, where you have a less than 1% chance to have a player selected for this. And it's a dice roll for every single player. Every single player gets hit by this. So they have that less than 1% chance. If they get the magic number that says that they should be a generational player, then what happens is it gets +5 across the board to every single rating. If not, then there's another one called which is basically kind of like it's a 3% chance, but basically it's a opportunity for players to maintain their ratings out of SNCFL, and what that means is they won't be impacted by buffs or nerfs. So in this scenario, what would happen is if we were, say, looking at, Fred Burns, he would get 93, 74, 93, 87, 76 if he rolled, in that magic 3%. Again, if players don't hit either one of those magic numbers, the either less than 1% or the 3% that I've determined, what happens is they go through the normalizer as normal. It's a weird sentence. They go through the normalizer as they typically would, and then the average rating kind of takes over, and they go into whatever bucket they're going to go into, and that's that. And the one other thing I probably should point out is that not every player has a shot at the generational or maintaining their ratings. The only ones who actually have that shot are anybody who scored above 90 on the average rating. All right. And again, the average rating is a compilation and a calculation done based off of college production and college ratings or college attributes of the player. So that's how it all kind of gets calculated and built in. And I think that's it. I think, again, there's going to be, I think there's a player increase next year. We did add a few more slots for players to get in. In certain position groups. Typically we take the top. So for example, quarterbacks, we take the top 20, running backs, I think we do top 25, linebackers and corners, I think is like top 50, wide receivers is top 35. So it's, we try to get as many as, possible that would make a difference in the league. So, but that's how it works. As far as, questions or, requests, things you want to add to this, I am all ears. You can hit me up on SimNation with either just at me in one of the chats or send me a direct message. But basically what we're doing here is recreating these not recreating, but we're adjusting these draft classes kind of like how the game would, except with a lot less, as much as this is going to sound crazy, with a lot less randomness. Obviously, there's a huge element of randomness to this, but we are building this much, much less random than the actual importing tool works. So As far as that's concerned, if anybody has questions, suggestions, want to add anything, feel free to let me know. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and end it there. But y'all take care, and I will see you in chat.